right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. We're going to get right into it. NATO kicks off massive Baltic drills as JB affirms U.S. weapons now being used inside of Russia. As far as JB saying this is straight up, this is an escalation. Most of the world is looking at this like, well, they're using U.S. weapons manufactured here, most likely even controlled by us and even assisted by us with our GPS and our systems against locations in Russia. This isn't a surprise to many of us that have been calling this for years now. I'm sure a lot of you have known that this was going to happen. And of course, just like everything else, when they said, oh, well, we need tanks and we need jets and we need Patriot missiles and everything that they've ever asked for, they've gotten. So it seems like they're definitely invested in this. You would think at some point they'd be like, well, let's quit while we're ahead or quit while we're really, really behind. But either way, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Are they going to let UKR lose? If Ukraine is literally trying to grab 150,000 people that bounced out of the draft, then it definitely seems like they're losing a lot of people. They're running out of people. What happens when that happens? Well, they're already setting up for that. They are looking to add in NATO troops if this gets any worse. At least that's what the rumor mill is. Again, in the shadow of the Russia-UKR war, right next door, NATO has kicked off its massive annual military exercises in the Baltic Sea. Baltic Operations 24 is about to be in full swing, kicking off formally on Friday, and involves over 9,000 personnel and more than 50 ships and 85 aircraft, comprising of 20 countries. Crucially, NATO's newest admittee, Sweden, is part of the drills as a full member state. The Kremlin is watching closely given the obviously surging regional tensions, which have increasingly seen all of Europe put on a war footing. Not only a war footing, they are actually telling their citizens all over Europe to not only have extra food, water, they're even giving them government resources and websites from the UK government to tell them exactly what they need for when it gets really crappy. U.S. military magazine Stripes states that it will feature amphibious gunnery, anti-submarine, air defense, and mine clearance operations. According to a statement from the 6th Fleet and Naval Striking and Support Forces of NATO, or Strike for NATO. They're very original. Explosive ordnance disposal, unmanned, underwater, and surface vehicle exercises, and medical response scenarios are also planned. So you've got land, sea, and air going on over there. Again, this is a major drill right as Steadfast Defender just ended. Steadfast Defender, of course, being the drill that had over 90,000 NATO troops. There's now 300,000 troops stationed over there for NATO in preparation for what? Poland and other countries are not only setting up barbed wire and dragon's teeth and trenches, but now they're adding things like palisades and even moats. So something's about to go down, and we're going to say this until the day it actually cracks off, and people are going to say, well, I think they're just scaring us. I think that there is a definite motivation for these military industrial complexes to get everything pumping up. Somebody's going to make a ton of money, and they're never going to be affected personally by the conflicts. A lot of us will be, though, and I'm sure if they do a draft, it's not going to be fun. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. Don't go anywhere. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Somebody made a comment. It went by too fast, but somebody says that NATO does not have 300,000 troops. I believe they have more than that. But if you do want to check any of our sources, again, that is what is officially known as, and that's not. I don't think that is just the NATO forces that are stationed in different places. So that you can find all of our sources over at marfooglenews.com. Today, you can actually find today's show right there. Just click on this thumbnail. You'll get to this page, and it will bring you to a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document. So if you're new here and you're watching and you go, oh, whatever you said, that sounds crazy, you can go to the source for it and see where we got it. And make sure that you can check our work for yourself. We put it together and archive it every single day. So that does, we believe, set us apart from many channels that do not tell you where they actually get the information. So make sure to go utilize that. You can even go up to the search bar and search previous shows or previous stories going back 4 years or 5 years now. All right. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine. And that 300,000 number we quoted last night, we quoted in the show on the other channel, and you just said now, comes from NATO leaders agreeing last year, and it was reported by the Telegraph, and it's all on our website.
Yes, so that is there. And then
it's 300,000 on state of high readiness.
Yep. And I believe that is not all of the troops, because you have to think of all the NATO countries that actually are involved in NATO. That's just the ones that are on high readiness. And Dex, do you want to go over, as Zelensky visits for D-Day, Macron promises UKR Mirage aircraft to fend off Russian attacks. Same day, by the way, just want to point out, this morning at about 6 a.m., I was getting up and I saw all of these clips. There was clips of our prez essentially standing with Macron, and something happened. All of a sudden, Macron stays back with the veterans, and JB ends up having like a moment where he looked like he was going to sit down, like there was a chair behind him, but there was no chair, and then kind of stands back up, and then a couple minutes later, his wife pulls him out of the picture and walks him away. I don't know what happened there. So I asked you guys on Twitter. You can go over to my Twitter at Marfoogle, just the @ Marfoogle over on X, and you can answer that question for me. What do you think it was? Obviously, there's a lot of the same theory going around, which is kind of crazy. There's so many clips exactly like that, but you be the judge for yourself. It does worry people that if he was having some sort of medical issue, or that he was not feeling well, or that he's just not all there or something. But you guys can go answer for yourself over on Twitter or on X. Dex, what is up with the Mirage aircraft? And now apparently they're going to get some of that?
Well, yeah, so all of the, hoopla today around Normandy and the D-Day anniversary with our prez there, and Zelensky there, and Macron obviously there in his country, is part of this was they have now reiterated or said that, hey, we're going to give you, UKR, you're going to get access to our Mirage jets. So just like they were asking for any type of modern aircraft, they recently got some F-16s, but the French-made combat aircraft, the Mirage 2005, which will allow UKR to protect its soil, its airspace against Russian attacks, the Macron told the press there as part of this announcement. France will also start training the Ukrainian pilots, he said. He reiterated that they should be allowed to use the weapons provided by its Western allies to target Russian military targets and to neutralize the points from which the country is being attacked. So again, sort of reiterating that statement that's come from other nations, including the U.S., saying, feel free to use our equipment and go strike Russia now. No longer do you have to just use it on the front line. You can take it all the way in. So he's saying they're going to get the Mirages, they're going to train them, and they're going to let them use it to go deep in the country if they need to.
Now, this is the Mirage here. You can see it reminds me of what all in my mind, that if I looked at that and didn't see any markings on it, I would think that looks like a Russian jet. I'm assuming that they're very close in design to some of. Well, I can't remember the name of the Russian one that looks a lot like this. But if you are an aviationist, or if you're into the hobby of knowing these things,
you thinking of MiGs?
Yeah, I'm thinking of MiGs, but is it a specific one that looks like this? If you're an aviation hobbyist, then let me know in the chat below. And then let's go back over to the map. Swiss Air Force lands fighter planes on a motorway in training exercises. So I've covered this for now 7 years now, since some of the first ones have happened. Okay, so first of all, if they're practicing landing on freeways, that's for a very specific event. If they're landing jets, planes, in one case here, I believe they landed a Hercules. When they shut down highways to do these kind of practices, it is for a very specific hypothetical scenario that your airfields have been taken out. Say all of your airfields were taken strategically out by an enemy. They bombed your airfield. What would you do to land? Well, we have a ton of freeways, and that's exactly what they would do. So if you imagine what scenario we would be in for this to happen, and again, this has happened in Taiwan, and now the Swiss are doing it. I believe the UK has done it. We had Australia did it, and then of course the US did it. Here, a lot of people cell phone cameraed this thing, and I mean it was crazy seeing huge planes land on stretches of US highways. It's just weird. It's like, whoa, there's a plane landing on a highway where, we're miles away from the nearest airfield. It scared some people. People that were about a half a mile away, there was comments saying like, hey, I didn't know this was happening. Didn't know they closed down that stretch. I thought this thing was going to crash. So it's a very, very scary scenario that they would be practicing for to do this kind of stuff. Switzerland's armed forces landed fighter jets on a stretch of motorway in the west of the country on Wednesday, testing the ability of combat aircraft to operate from improvised locations amid heightened national security concerns in Europe. Broadcast live on Swiss television, the FA-18 fighter jets were scheduled to both land and take off on a rural section of the A1 motorway between the towns of Avenches and Payerne in the French-speaking part of Switzerland. A handful of onlookers and emergency services watched the twin-engine supersonic jets touch down as a heat haze shimmered over the closed-off stretch of the A1 motorway. It went really well, Elaine Van Buren said, the first pilot to land on the motorway, said after exiting the U.S.-made jet designed for use on aircraft carriers. So, I don't know if there's anything to that. I'm sure they can land on anything with the airfield. But if they're designed for aircraft carriers, think about that too. Like, what if all of our aircraft carriers were taken out? If you had all of these jets that were actually planted on a aircraft carrier, and if what China says is true, that China can actually essentially knock out our aircraft carriers and stop and jam all of their basically their defensive radars and things like that, and they know how to track and trace all of our Navy ships, including our carriers, because now they have satellites. That's a scary thought too, is if you have a carrier full of jets and then they now can't land, they have to go to land and then land on some sort of road. So I wonder if they did that on purpose, planes specifically designed, for that. Obviously, those planes if they have wheels, then they most likely can land anywhere with the airfield. But if you know more about it, let me know in the chat below. Dex, I mean, when you saw this, I've been covering this for years, even before you were with me. This is something that the scenario behind why they do it is really, really unnerving.
Absolutely. Just, we've seen it so many times now. I'm surprised we haven't seen it more this year. Maybe they've just done it and nobody's covered it. But everywhere from, Americas to other locations, we've seen this type of landing, especially with some of the more, what was the A-10s, the F-35s. They've done it with a lot. So, but yeah, they're getting ready.
And then before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. One of the most likely scenarios, if we ever hypothetically were invaded or just attacked as a tit-for-tat scenario, would be an EMP strike. Now, an EMP strike wouldn't actually take any lives directly. What it would do is it could potentially knock down our entire grid. There is a way you can protect against that and against Carrington-level events from the sun. We're in solar cycle 25, so this is really a two-in-one device. If it's for your home, it's actually a 3-in-1. It protects you against lightning. This is a device that can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it fries your device. Again, this can go on your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators, ham radios, and even your home, and protect within 250 linear feet of where it is wired into your house. Go to marfoogle.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. You'll get $50 off per device, and you'll help our independent channel. If you've been waiting and sitting on something like this, again, these can get to you very quickly. And again, it's something you can do in about 10 minutes on your own. It's not something you need a mechanic to put in. It's red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground or a part of your chassis. Then you just bolt it into your engine compartment, wherever you can find room, and you're done. It's very, very easy. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do it, especially a Boeing rocket scientist. Anyways, go check it out. It helps us. We are on our own, and you guys are the reason why we are shared out to people. You guys share us out. You are the ones that keep us running. So thank you guys. Also, it will protect you the same way that they're asking now governments of the world are doing the same thing. All right, and then Dex, let's go over the French terror inquiry after the UKR Russian man detonates explosive materials in a hotel.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. We've talked about these warnings. So it started with sort of Russia saying, you're going to get hit from within, and you're not going to be able to tell who it's coming from. That was sort of the veiled threat that they had made. Maybe a month or so ago, we covered it. And then they started putting up these warnings about, hey, be cautious. We think there's stuff coming. And they're certainly wanting to point the finger at Russia. And we've even covered a recent fire at a factory or a IKEA or somewhere. It was a massive fire. I think it was in Germany. I can't remember which country. And they now were starting to suspect it was tied back to Russia. Well, here we have a suspicious person who, by all accounts, allegedly appears to be planning to do bad stuff, and in the process had a presumably accidental explosion of some of the material that he had stored in his hotel room. And now they're saying this person is tied back to Russia. So now they've arrested the person. He, had this incident in the hotel room where stuff was detonated, and now they're doing the inquiry. But presumably what he had was a lot of more stuff to be able to use to create and do bad things around the city. And this is just north of Paris, this town that it was in.
So there's also no way to prove what actually happened. A lot of folks mentioned the potential for a Fantastic Freddy type event where it's set up to look like something. And then others said, yeah, this is par for the course for what's going on right now. But he accidentally boomed, it accidentally went boom before it should have. Is that what happened? Is this some other thing that's making it look like this? This is France, mind you. And France has had all sorts of weird kind of back and forth comments about, their allies and other things. They've met with certain presidents. So you never know what's actually happening behind the scenes. But you can read the rest of the article over on marfooglenews.com. You can go over there and find it. Thank you, Colleen Wrench. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super sticker. And same with Olga Turan. Thank you, Olga Turan. Thank you. I appreciate your support. And thank you for the super sticker. Thank you for supporting Independent. Again, everybody that has supported this week, thank you, Callie. Thank you, Chocolate Scene Pal, Kat, Resistance Homesteading, and of course, Carol. Thank you so much. Josh P. and Sweatna Ministries, and Angelicit and Trilicit, and of course, Nivets. Thank you guys. Again, thank you for supporting us. It's been, we cannot say thank you enough, especially this year. It's going to get even crazier in the next 6 months, so thank you guys for standing next to us. All right, and then activists fly K-pop USB sticks into North Korea as poo balloon row intensifies. This is just like, so first of all, if you didn't follow, North Korea actually sent pamphlets dropping from balloons, including literal poo and gross things, dropping garbage. They had, I think, was it 90 decks? Was it 90 or 900? I think it was 90. But North Korea sent to South Korea these poo balloons that dropped pamphlets and dropped diapers and all sorts of gross stuff. Now they say the balloon wars between the two Koreas have intensified after activists in the South said that they had sent balloons carrying anti-North Korean propaganda over the country's heavily armed border. Now, if you remember, they actually had some sort of agreement. Dex, do you remember, did that actually go away? I feel like we've covered a story where they stopped that agreement because there was like something in writing or something.
They had a agreement where they would not play the K-pop music, send over the leaflets and stuff like this, and then that seemed to halt when the poop balloons came across. So yeah, because South Korea was really putting big speakers up and just blasting it across the borderlines. That's what they had been doing, among other things. But yeah, including leaflets. Leaflets have always been going back and forth on both sides. So one side tells how great Kim is, the other side tells how awful he is. So
Shidaloons, that's what we'll call them. So this whole thing, and mind you, if they're playing K-pop, people are going to have all different reactions of what K-pop is, or if they can handle it, or if they hate it. But as far as North Korea, that's considered, if you have possession of K-pop, you're going to get, taken out by a SAM missile or something. If you have a Friends disc, a Friends episode on DVD, you're going to get taken out. So for them to do that, they're basically saying, that's a no-go. And then the pamphlets, I wonder what those pamphlets said. Why don't we ever see pictures of what the actual pamphlets say, translated? I wonder if those are out there. I really still want to know, on the pamphlets that did drop when North Korea sent them this way towards, South Korea, why didn't anybody have pictures of the pamphlets? Why didn't we even see pictures of the whatever dropped off of these things? I didn't see any on any of the articles. So you didn't see pictures of the diapers dropped or anything. So I thought that was weird. In an age where everybody has phones, this apparently went all over the place. Why didn't we see more physical coverage of it?
And they're sending U.S. dollars in these balloons. Did you see that?
I did not. No. That's interesting too. What are they going to do with it?
Yeah, isn't that odd? Yeah, what are they going to do with it? But yeah, U.S. dollars, flash drives with K-pop, and a piece of literature about how bad Kim Jong-un is, in addition to other things.
Well, and then think about this: if they have U.S. dollars on them, they could. That's actually so. Say if the government there finds U.S. dollars being hoarded. So say the people got a U.S. dollar dropped on the ground, they pick it up. If the local government finds them with U.S. dollars in hand that they didn't give up to the government, because any North Korean that leaves the country to work is supposed to come back and give 100% of the proceeds back to the government. They're trained that way. They very few get away from it, but they do send people out of the country, trusted people, to go work, even do construction jobs. One of the things is they had a huge site with Mongolia, and they were doing construction jobs, and they would bring 100% of their wages back to the government and give it to them. So these South Koreans sending money over, if the people that are over there, just the regular citizens, have money on them and are found with the US dollars and they didn't immediately give it to the government, then they're going to get killed. And if they do give it to the government, it's like these South Koreans are basically sending US dollars to North Korea. I don't know. It's just kind of stupid. What are they going to do with that?
Or psychologically, they're basically saying, hey, if you don't live in that country, we have so much money, we can just throw money at you. That's how easy it is to make money out of your country. So leave, right? I think that it may be more psychological than actually functional.
Like, oh, over here is the land of the free, and we've got money flowing everywhere, and it's U.S. dollars. That'll really piss them off. And then, and then that gets us in trouble. That's kind of like putting us in the spotlight too. And then Yemen's Houthi rebels unveil solid fuel Palestine missile that resembles Iranian hypersonic. So, Dex, they're making kind of a copycat.
Well, if you think they can make them, I mean, maybe they're capable of it. But since, they're actually supplied everything from Iran for the most part, if they're now revealing, hey, look at our new shiny hypersonic, and it looks identical to the one Iran makes, just with a different paint job, I guess you can sort of question where that one came from. At least I do. So, but yeah, that's the latest. And we said this, like, look, we've been talking about how the equipment that is going into Yemen has gotten better and better and better. And it's only coming from those who are supplying it to them. It's not like they have a huge manufacturing, military industrial complex there just cranking out awesome equipment. It is coming from the likes of Iran, who's got flush with cash, who has the ability to make and manufacture and sell and distribute it. And they've been doing it. And they do it with all of their groups throughout the Middle East. But this one we're seeing the most of because they've been advancing a lot, everything from, cruise missiles to now potentially this hypersonic. And if this is a hypersonic and they start using it, because it's a big deal if Iran fires one off, but Yemen can do it all day long because they are firing stuff off every day. So it'll be interesting to see if they actually use it and it actually works and it can do something, because that will change the game and everybody will be up in arms quickly.
Literally. And then Israeli strike kills at least 33 people at the Strip at the Gaza school the military claims was being used by Hamas. Now, obviously, any event like this is going to cause a lot of strife all over social media. There's videos and pictures posted by, of course, both sides, two different angles of it, both arguing that, this is the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do without getting in the middle of it. We look at what this is going to cause and the reverberations it's going to send throughout the world. Something like this, especially when it is a school, there are questions underneath. There's a lot of comments saying, was this done, is something like this almost done or covered on purpose in the way it is to cause people to get really, really angry? Did it happen on purpose? Was it purposeful? Did it actually go down as they say it did, or did the own side take out their own people to make it look like it? There's all sorts of theories on what's going on, but we're just looking at how are people going to react to this. We know that the world is already protesting in countries all over the world about this event and this conflict. Now you have a strike that took out 33 people, which, again, I'm sure some of my friends are pointing out that it's 33, right? I mean, yeah. And of course, they said including 23 women and children, according to a local health official. So I would say, with this happening after a whole month of just random lone wolf events and things like this, no matter where you are, especially if you're in Europe or in some of these places that have a lot of active folks in different cells, I would just keep your head on a swivel when you're out in public. I think that, we may see a big, pump up in the next few months of those kind of events, kind of like that one author and critic guy that just got taken out and, shanked. So like things like that, I feel like the media is about to show us a whole lot more of that, and I think that a whole lot more of that kind of stuff is going to happen, especially with stuff like this happening. So my prediction, for what it's worth, is that in the next couple months, we're going to see a bunch more of those kind of events. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm praying that it doesn't. But again, this is a big deal, especially when it involves a school. And then Boeing's astronaut capsule arrives at the space station after thruster trouble. Boeing did not have the best luck. We, of course, covered this, and I'm sure people are pretty bored of hearing about Boeing at this point. But for once, I guess something succeeded. But, of course, the successful, I guess not landing, but docking, right? Even that had trouble, or at least that's what they say. Now, I know everybody's got a different opinion of this, like, invisible wires, all of that. But if you are looking at this as Boeing made it, it's a success, well, the media doesn't care. They're still going to cover the trouble with the thruster problems. They tried to launch this thing like 5 times before they actually got a successful launch. And now they say that it has reached the space station. So they're all happy, flipping around and spinning around upside down and drinking their water droplets with slow-mo cameras, all of that. So, again, they linked up with the space station. We'll see if they can end up getting back home, though. And before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace Medical. If you have a regular medication, definitely go check out Jace, because you can actually get a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds, or you can get a Jace case. It actually has emergency antibiotics that make the difference between having a cut on your finger during SHTF or having a cut on your finger and perishing from it. Antibiotics are extremely important, and as we know, a huge percentage, 97% of the APIs that go into the pharmaceutical ingredients in antibiotics are now all made in G's country. 90% of all antibiotics are made over there, which is absolutely insane. So if you do want to have some extra on hand, just in case the pharmacies go down, or you can't just go refill your prescription or go to a doctor, then this is a really great service. You have a board-certified doctor through a telehealth appointment, and it's all very easy to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/Jace and make sure to use the code MARV. All of the affiliates for the show, if you just subscribed, like Jackson Roche, and we have, Darren Will, thank you so much for subscribing. And Steven and Ben 10, thank you guys for subscribing. If you just subscribed, remember all of our affiliates, they usually do not change much. They all are solutions to things that we believe either will happen or could happen. And if we're going to talk about the disaster, we should probably talk about the solution as well. At the same time as helping support us, you are getting a discount by doing so. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/Jace. And very good to have antibiotics on hand. And then Unnatural Wonder, China's most famous waterfall, goes viral after video reveals embarrassing discovery. Chinese park officials fessed up to adding, quote, a small enhancement to the country's tallest waterfall after a hiker's viral video revealed a breathtaking 1,000-foot high cascade is actually being fed by a large pipe stealthily built into its rock face. This one, the one about how I went through all the hardship to source of Yuntai waterfall only to see a pipe. The poster, using an alias Forestvolf, sarcastically captioned the video, which was garnered tens of millions of views on Chinese social networks Weibo and Douyin. Now, I wonder, they say that they were using an alias. Everything in China is tracked. So whatever this person did, embarrassing things like this, you can get yourself disappeared. That's what happens in China when you do that. But apparently this beautiful waterfall is not exactly what they say it is, right? It says, I didn't expect to meet everyone this way. Officials from Yuntai Mountain Geopark adopting the persona of a waterfall. And it says, as a seasonal scenery, I can't guarantee that I will be in my most beautiful form every time you come to see me. The post continued, admitting the alterations were made to dupe the UNESCO Global Geopark's millions of annual tourists and visitors. Like, that's pretty lame if you ask me. So they literally have a pipe putting out this beautiful waterfall. So surprising. How the heck did they get up there, though? I think maybe, did they not think that somebody was going to do that earlier? Dex, I wonder how much of China is exactly like that. You know, like how many wonders of the world are not exactly what they seem.
Yeah, kind of like all of those massive, big, huge cities that have like nothing behind the walls. They're just empty buildings, unfinished, and nobody, running around the streets. Yeah, there's all sorts of things like that in China. So, hey, refresh the map too. We added something from a Fugle fan member. But yeah, this waterfall, I guess, it's the largest there. It's supposed to be the most visited sightseeing thing in that particular province if you're in that area. And apparently they didn't want it to go dry when the weather's dry, so they just fake it till you make it.
Okay, so I did see this in the chat earlier, and who was this? Who sent this? So there,
Jake B.
So they were correct. Is this real? The
website, it may have been hacked or something, but the image, the screenshot of the debt clock being at 0, was from before the site went down. The site's now down. I think you have a link to both the image and the website.
Okay, that's scary.
But this is from a third party organization, I guess, that runs that debt clock for lots of countries. They aggregate it. But yeah, it's kind of odd that it went to 0 all of a sudden.
Oh, that's scary. And this is a screenshot from Jake B. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Jake B got the screenshot when it was on 0. Now, if you go to the website, it's down, or it doesn't load, or it loads with a whole bunch of broken stuff all over it.
I don't know why that like gave me butterflies. Yeah, Cynthia O'Neill says, "What? See here, think." Says, "Yeah, reset." Somebody says that works for me. What movie was that talks about? Maybe it was a show where Mr. Robot, where they shut down the biggest corporation in the world and wipe everybody's debt, right? So apparently Genius by Birth suggests that it's hacked. So the U.S. national debt clock, which most of you have probably seen by now. A lot of people talk about it. A lot of people have it in their background. Some people have some sort of, what do they call that when they have something digital that, like, remember how they used to have the subscriber clocks that would update live? How do they do that with what is that called? The word for, it's a computer thing where it will automatically grab information from a website and update it on a
feed?
A feed, yeah. People would have the feed, and a lot of creators have the U.S. national debt clock. So I'm sure some of you have probably seen it. People literally show that on their screen at all times, almost to kind of jab it into India. That is very unnerving. So that could just be with the third-party website, but what if that was from the actual, from the source? All of a sudden something happened. That would not be good. And then this is the actual link. I'm going to click on this.
Yeah, it'll probably give you...
It is broken.
Yeah, it's going to say it's broken. Mine's loading forever. It'll eventually load with a bunch of broken images all over it.
It is broken. It is not working. Okay, so... Yeah. The person who wrote, reset, that's just the scary thought, like back to 0. That's literally what it would be, right? I guess we can build back somewhat gooder, right? Isn't that the thing? Somewhat gooder. I think gooder. Build back gooder. Yeah, that's the slogan. All right. And then the cough. So if you guys have been following this, a lot of people are covering this. I personally, I almost don't want to. I almost think like it's almost not a good thing to give this kind of thing airtime with the timing of everything, but it is something that you guys should know about, okay? The bird cough, which, again, even the other day somebody said, oh, why are you covering all of this war stuff when this is the biggest thing? I do believe this could be the biggest thing. It could be just like CV. We could see the same exact thing happen. So be prepared for that. You should be prepped up. You should have extra stuff in your pantry for this kind of event, either if it really happens or if they show you it really happens, and guess what? The results are the same. If they tell you that you have to stay home, then you have to stay home. I mean, yeah, you don't have to, but again, they'll make life hard for you if you don't, right? So it's something like this. They said that this person perished from the first person that perished, but then they said they didn't have contact with it, all this. You need to go into this and go look at it yourself. But essentially, the first person perished about it. But you need to look at the actual situation around it. And you need to go look at a few people's kind of views on this, of why they think that this is not something everybody should be talking about. Obviously, we had statements by our former prez recently, I believe, unless that was an AI video saying like, hey, this whatever is they're going to try to do, we're not going to go along with it. Either way, you should understand that if another event like a 2019 event happens, all of you should be prepared by now, or you should be starting small and trying to build up what you have, just in case, whether it is something that is natural and real or unnatural and fake. The results for us will be the same as civilians. Unless you're incredibly rich and above the law, then you're going to have an issue with something like this if it gets into a big thing. Could it be conflict? Could it be this? I don't know. But I do believe in the next 5 months or 6 months, 5 months exactly, that we're going to have some sort of big event. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that coming. In fact, it barely takes a Boeing employee to see that coming. Okay? So I hope that people are paying attention. Apparently, he had no contact with the certain kinds of birds that this came from. There's a lot of weird stuff, so you go look into it. I agree with some of the other Foogle fam that, like, hey, and you know me, I went to the first patient of the 2019 event. I was there at the hospital outside interviewing doctors, which strangely enough, they all said, we don't have anybody here. That was weird. When they said, oh, there's robots serving them in a sealed off room and stuff. I almost think that if this doesn't get hyped up, that maybe it might not get hyped up at all. But who knows? We'll see. And that was in Mexico. The 3-letter agency starting with a W and ending with a ho said. And then the debt claw, where we just talked about that. And then Russia deploying in air and sea assets. First of all, this is like all getting absolutely crazy. The world is going nuts right now. And we called this a month ago. We've called this for a long time, that it's very suspicious what's happening in Cuba. In fact, if you go back a year and 2 years and 2.5 years, we've been watching what Cuba has been doing with Russia and China. They've been setting up practice bases and drill teams that are set up permanently in Cuba. They have monitoring facilities. They've got satellite dishes and things set up, and these facilities that are meant to surveil the United States being set up in Cuba. So we've known that Cuba has, been something shady going on there for a while. Recently, we had all this stuff with Haiti. Now, before anybody was talking about Haiti, if you remember, the independent creators were all talking about Haiti way before. They were like saying, hey, something weird is going on. The public didn't hear about Haiti and the rest of these Caribbean, area islands until it was at the point where gangs, took over. But independent media has been covering Haiti since the beginning of it, since before, when Barbecue had control over like a single block. Now he's, all over the place. all of these things going on with Cuba and all of these islands and Niger switching from this over in Africa and all of these countries that are essentially picking their side, that is preparing for whatever they have planned for us next. It's very freaky. Now, after last month we covered specifically, they told us that Russia was going to send 200,000 tourists and that Cuba was going to allow a huge number, 200,000 Russian tourists into Cuba. We said, okay, that also could hide troops. They're literally stating that 200,000 Russians are about to go from Russia to Cuba. Flights in, allowed, and everything, right? We said, wow, that could be used to hide Russian troops. Now, all of a sudden, they're telling us that they're doing massive drills in the land, sea, and air in Cuba. Remember, Russia did the drills outside of Ukraine a year exactly before they actually did the real event. So is this something that people should be worried about? I would say at least be paying attention, especially if you're in places like Florida or in the East Coast or even where over by you, Dex. Very strange stuff. By the way, hey, thank you, Kenny Cams and Lady Yell. Kenny Cam says, or it seems like somebody just cashed out about the national debt clock. And then sending love, Foogle family. I love you all. Thank you, Marf, Dex, and Mods. Lady Yell, thank you so much. And again, thank you, Jackson Roche and Colleen Wrench. Appreciate that. Make sure to send love over to the Foogle fam friends. Go over to marfoogle.com/friends. Make sure to drop an M in the chat right now and go subscribe to as many as you can. All these mods are really amazing people, so go check them out. Dex, as far as Russia, land, sea, and air exercises in Cuba.
Yeah, this is, this should be very alarming. And it's interesting is that our current president's not paying attention to it. Basically says, it doesn't matter. They're probably just going to send some ships in, go to port, move on. Don't worry about it. It's not a big threat. So, this should be, we should have some scrutiny given all of the rhetoric that was coming out of Russia about the conflict and about their ire towards the U.S. for providing everything that's now striking them. We should have a lot of scrutiny around this, especially since just this week, Putin said, yeah, we may give weapons to other countries to use for us to strike the West with. Well, maybe Cuba is one of those other countries. What happens if they just, I don't know, plop a whole bunch of hypersonics and S-400 systems and everything else and just leave everything they bring in with these drills right there in Cuba and just arm them up? Is that going to be good for America? Is that going to be good for southern Florida? No. And I think we should be scrutinizing this one. That's for sure. It's really close. And
if you look at the map, the places that are right now, Venezuela is a key strategic point. Venezuela, a lot of the Venezuelans that are coming in, there's a lot of theories of what's happening there, but everyone that is coming in through the south, including from other countries, a lot of them are actually starting in Venezuela, or they're starting in Panama. Now, down here, is it Panama? Yeah, the Panama is where the Darien Gap is. This is the Darien National Park. They're building a tank column-sized bridge, and if you look at the construction of it, this is a bridge that you would see being built in like Boston or New York, right? Only it's being built in the middle of the jungle, okay? That should be sending alarm bells ringing all over the world. Why? Well, look at the path here. If you go through Panama, you, of course, go through Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Guatemala, of course, Mexico, and where do you end up? Oh, right. Without even noticing, we're in Texas, in Denver, in Albuquerque, in Utah, Washington. Okay, this is the path that people are taking. They are literally traveling, some by foot, all the way up here, or train all the way from this Darien Gap. That is happening right now. Venezuela, which is super tightly connected with Iran and Russia, they all of a sudden have money and the drive to say, oh, well, you know what? We're going to line up our troops with Guyana. And U.S. is about to try to back up Guyana. Now you have Port-au-Prince in the Dominican Republic and Haiti. They're talking about Chinese bases being put up there. You have Cuba with Russia all of a sudden doing drills there, and at least 2 different stories of not only Russia setting up in Cuba, but of course China setting up in Cuba. And then you have smaller islands that they have said that China is actually purchasing property and setting up and hiding certain amounts of people there. So what the heck is going on? Then, of course, you've got military-age people coming in through the south. I mean, and then you've got them drilling off our west coast. You've got submarines being spotted and several times off our east coast. It's like, and then, of course, in Canada, they've got that whole agreement. So if they wanted to, they could actually have something set up there. And they have an agreement with China that if it is of use to China and if it is an asset to China, China doesn't even have to tell them when they fly there to protect it. They can even have 1,000 troops go into a building in Winnipeg or somewhere in Canada, and if they own the property and it's an asset directly of China, they have an agreement where they don't even have to tell anybody they're going into it. So they could have all of these places. And we thought, oh, we're geographically safe. Everybody always thought the U.S. is geographically safe. You can't take on the U.S. They would have to travel this whole ocean. Well, then they were like, oh, well, actually, you know, part of it is the gas and the fuel and getting all the way across. Well, they also started building islands in the middle of this whole track here, like the Spratly Islands, where they can refuel and they can launch and they can make airfields and make the trip a little bit shorter. They're moving Iron Dome systems to Guam and other places. You've got all these strange things happening at the same time that Taiwan and China is lining up to all these countries. People should be really preparing right now. But again, that's just our opinion. Dex, go ahead.
A great comment from Just Jay. Says, don't forget the Chinese company that quote unquote maintains the Panama Canal. Remember, we gave the canal back, or gave the canal to Panama, who then in turn hired a Chinese contracting company, and now it's basically controlled by China.
And along this whole trip, people like that, the one gentleman who actually went along this entire trip and documented it, said that there's areas set up all along it with translated materials and pamphlets teaching people from Xi's country exactly how to get in, exactly how to deal with the system, everything else. And then we find out on our side that they're not even doing background checks until after or until the day of their hearing. So if they do get in, they seek to live here. They then release them and say, "Hey, come back at this day. This is going to be your date to figure this out." That's when they were doing the background checks, according to stuff that came out. Again, that we're not saying that. That's what MSM was saying. That's nuts. This is a setup for something bad. And if you look at the numbers on how much they are just skyrocketing, something has happened. The investment in gold, the hoarding by China, the hoarding by Russia, the hoarding by all these countries, the fact that gold is up at $2,400. Some are stating that it will get up to 3,000 in a very short period of time. The fact that Bitcoin and gold in one day went up just giant numbers. That shows you the fact that Zuckerbergs and Altmans and others are building bunkers should be a huge red flag to everybody. But people are going to deny it until the second it happens. I think it's in our nature it helps us not fear what's going on. But again, I know everybody has different opinions here, and I know not everybody agrees with me. But again, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Dex, very, very freaky stuff we're talking about here.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, this should be eye-opening to people that haven't been paying attention. And the one thing you guys can do is you can reach out to those people. Take the video we just did over on news. Take that short. It's a small 11-minute video. It's real easy. Talks about this. Share it. Matter of fact, it's the one thing you can do against this algorithm, so to speak, that's holding everyone back, is do something about it. So like it, share it, give it to a friend, send it to someone else, because they're not doing it.
Especially somebody that you believe would value our show and understand how much work it is, and somebody who's not prepared and really should be. Thank you, everybody, for your support today. Thank you over on DLive. Thank you, Kimbria. Thank you, Poco Loco, Shugs, Vicky K. Thank you, Jay. Girl, that's me. I appreciate you so much more than you know. SYM Radio, thank you for following. Shugs, thank you for those who are new subscribers, like, again, Dan and Ryan H. Thank you, Kenny Cams. Tamara Buckaloo, thank you. Dr. Spushman, thank you. I'm sorry if I totally butchered your name. Thank you, Dr. Sapushman. I think I'm totally ruining that. Thank you so much. I appreciate every person that walks in the door and subscribes. It does help us. The bigger that number gets, doesn't matter to me, but it does matter to guests. I just only recently, I could not believe that somebody who I thought would absolutely want to come on, their person that we had to talk to, said that they only go on shows of 1 million subscribers or more. You could say it's an excuse, but it's not the first time we've run into that. If you talk to their agents, like their public agents or whatever, publicity agents, 1 million subscribers. So that's our goal now. I hope we can get some of these bigger people on, especially experts. That would be really great. If you guys can help us get there, that would be really much appreciated. Thank you guys. Love you. Again, so many of you are so awesome. So make sure to go check out the website. Also, go get yourself some extra food at My Patriot Supply. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Freeze-dried food that lasts 25 years. You'll get a massive discount, up to $300 off on a 3-month plan, which will have everything sealed in Mylar bags into buckets, so you'll be able to store it and keep it wherever. And again, they have small packages. You can get a 3-day kit. You can get a 1 month, a week. So go check them out. They have lots of great stuff. marfooglenews.com/prep. Thank your mods. Go over to friends and go check them out. And of course, if you want to go to our previous show over on Marfoogle News and share that out with your friends and family, just click here. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. Thank you so much, Dex.
Much love. Great job, brother.